Democrats are starting to panic, and it's obvious. We knew it was happening. They realized the riots were hurting their numbers. How stupid do you have to be? I mean this seriously. The moment I saw one person throw a Molotov, I was like, that's bad. Y'all need to call it out and call for law and order. And the Democrats didn't. They said, peaceful protests. We must defend the peaceful protests. And then some dude lobbed an explosive and burned a cop's hand. And the cops posted photos of injuries. And Donald Trump said, I am going to be sending in federal law enforcement to the courthouse to end the violent anarchists' uprising. And people saw that and said, I like it. And the Democrats said, Trump is attacking the peaceful protesters. And people were like, dude, what are you talking about? We're watching violence in the streets. And it took this long, 3 months, for Democrats to finally be like, oh, people don't like it when their lives are burnt to the ground by a bunch of lunatics. How stupid is this place we live in, huh? Is this time we live in? Top Democrats fear that protests could help Trump win. The best part about how this article is framed from Axios is that they're not even saying straight up it will. They're saying it could. It could. Dude, realize it. Stop. All I'm asking the entire time was for one Democrat to be like, we agree with Donald Trump and we must end the lawlessness. What did we get? Well, violence is wrong, but, we defend what the movement is for and Trump is bad. Trump is bad? No. You're supposed to agree with him. Listen, they're so obsessed with Trump always being wrong, they defended rioting. Now, I know Joe Biden a couple times has condemned this, and people on the left are like, he's condemned it over and over again. No, shut up. A couple times he did. But they've repeatedly called it peaceful protests. Axios says, Democrats close to Joe Biden increasingly fear the looting and violence in cities could help President Trump, especially among the few undecided or wavering Americans. This is a huge story that helps explain the state of the race, with some Democrats panicking that Trump could win. I love it when they do this because I've made so many videos where I'm like, Democrats panic, but they literally say it. They're panicking. A new poll of Wisconsin has heightened worry. Check it out. In a Marquette Law School poll of registered voters in battleground Wisconsin, support for Black Lives Matter protests dropped 13 points from June to August, just ahead of the police shooting of Jacob Blake. There was an initial surge in support for and sympathy with BLM in June. The shift to a more negative view in August is strongest among Republicans, but independents and Democrats also became less approving. The decline was across all regions except for the city of Milwaukee. At a rally last night in Manchester, New Hampshire, the Trump campaign amplified the issue by handing out official signs saying, peaceful protester, and this is a peaceful protest. Wow, Donald Trump gets it, doesn't he? His campaign, they're smart people. They're going to say, oh, but they're not social distancing or wearing masks. Oh, don't worry. They're peaceful protesters. That's why it's okay, huh? You know what I say? Protesters, your ass, Trump said. I don't talk about my ass. They're not protesters. Those are anarchists. They're agitators. They're rioters. They're looters. They don't even know who George Floyd is. If you ask them, who's George Floyd, they couldn't even tell you. Video of Senator Rand Paul and his wife Kelly being chased back to their hotel, shielded by police, has gotten more than 10 million views. And the left was panicked. No, he's not being attacked. People who are watching it aren't watching it because they agree with you. They're watching because they're scared about what's happening in this country. Paul said on Fox and Friends, the attackers were yelling, say her name, Breonna Taylor, killed by police in a no-knock raid. Quote, I'm actually the author of Justice for Breonna Taylor Act to end no-knock raids, Paul said. So the irony is lost on these idiots. Andrew Sullivan writes, the trap the Democrats walked right into. If law and order are what this election is about, they will lose. Biden needs a gesture of real sister soldier clarity to put daylight between him and the violent left. The bottom line, David Axelrod warned fellow Dems about Trump's effort to shift attention from COVID and unemployment to law and order. The timing of unrest in Kenosha has been a gift to him in that project. Yeah, well, guess what? They tried telling us the George Floyd protests will not help Trump win re-election. Here's why. I don't care what their reason is. They are so dumb. You know what? This Beltway bubble, they have no idea what's going on in the world. They didn't understand why Trump won the first time. They don't understand why he's winning now. And they'll do these polls. Actually, Tim, Joe Biden is leading by 8 points. 6 points. 5 points. In key battleground states, 1 point. In select, very important blue wall battleground states, Trump is winning. What were you saying then about Joe Biden leading? I'm angry. I'm personally really angry. I remember when I heard about what happened in Chicago. You know the story? You may have heard me tell it, but listen. I went to bed one night because the rioting happened in the wee hours of the morning. I went to bed. I wake up to everybody blowing up my phone saying Chicago is aflame. People were romping around, destroying, smashing, shooting guns. And I got worried. I'm like, this is my hometown. I got family who lives in the Chicago suburbs and in Chicago. Then I heard that they were raising the bridges. And then I got mad. What is she doing? Mayor Lori Lightfoot rejected Trump's assistance. Then I got really mad. They just kept calling it peaceful protests. Take a look at this thread from Jim Meigs. Jim Meigs is co-host for Fix-It Show, former Popular Mechanic EIC. He has a Twitter thread where he said, maybe if far-left ideologues don't want mainstream America to think they advocate for riots and looting, they shouldn't write books praising rioting and looting. Just a thought. I kid you not. In Defense of Looting is a new book, and NPR promoted it. Well, they interviewed the author. I'm not going to say it's direct promotion. Jim says, and no, I'm not advocating censorship. Quite the contrary. It's actually informative to see this view becoming normalized in far-left intellectual circles, just as it is informative to see NPR interview the author with total deference and no pushback on absurd factual claims. I want to make sure this is clear for all of you, and please share this video. When they looted in Chicago, and I woke up worried trying to figure out what was going on, do you know what Black Lives Matter did? They went out to the police station and protested in defense of looting. When I was in Ferguson, I was on the ground watching young black men link arms to defend their community from rioters and looters. And they said, these people don't live here. They're destroying our home. What did they write on this leftist rag who I'm not going to name? They wrote, quote, in defense of looting. The same garbage fake talking point to protect the Democrats by convincing people that the poor of this country, the marginalized communities, would support outsiders coming in and burning down their homes. A lie. Nobody wants that. Can you believe the nerve of NPR and this woman to write a book saying, actually, the minorities in this country like it when people burn down their homes? How psychotic do you have to be to believe that anyone wants to see their life go up in flames in defense of looting? Jim says, looting isn't stealing property by force, she says. It's a way of attacking the idea of property. This guy burned to death in Minneapolis pawn shop was not mentioned. He says, nor were the thousands of minority businesses destroyed in riots, the hundreds of thousands whose workplaces and jobs disappeared, or the millions whose neighborhoods have been made unlivable. Mike Tracy reporting has been invaluable on this. I completely agree. Michael Tracy nailed it when he drove around and actually talked to people. My respect. Maybe we don't agree on everything, but I think Michael Tracy did a great job. He says, as far as I can see, Michael Tracy has yet to be interviewed by NPR. Vicky Osterwale argues that looting is, quote, a powerful tactic that questions the justice of law and order and the distribution of property and wealth in an unequal society. I'd like to see her explain that to Flora Westbrooks. Michael Tracy responded, NPR doesn't have to interview me. They have plenty of reporters they could have sent to conduct simple interviews with people whose lives were upended by riots, but they are too wedded to a particular narrative and terrified of internal staff revolts. The hyper-privileged anarchist pro-looting author clearly did zero journalism in relation to the recent riots that she's now commenting on. Her ideological mission is to foment insurrection, and bizarrely, milquetoast libs like NPR are all in favor of it. I'm so done with all of this, man. I want Trump to come in. I want to see that giant 40-foot, you know that thing they did? Where was it? Was it in Poland? The giant God Emperor Trump. Just bring out the float and have it march down the street. I'm kidding, by the way. I think it was funny, but I'm just so sick and tired of ineffectual Democrats and milquetoast NPR being, propping up this narrative. They're too scared. Regular Americans don't like this, and our cultural institutions are supporting outright psychosis. These people want to burn everything to the ground, and I want to make sure I stress one last point. I have to say it. I dare you to go to a black neighborhood, a Latino neighborhood, an Asian neighborhood, and tell them not to worry because you will be there to burn down their store. Because, of course, it's a powerful symbol against the idea of property. They must agree with this, right? I'll tell you what. You show up to any one of these neighborhoods, and don't be surprised when the people come out of their homes with baseball bats and crowbars saying, stay away from my business. And what happened in Atlanta? You better believe a ton of people came out and said, stay away from my business. Now, they couldn't stop all the rioters and looters, but it's about time we stop these extremists and we call out the media organizations and the Democrats who have supported the violent, the looting, the violent individuals, the looting, the arson, and we actually defend minority communities and the impoverished. They're not going to do it. So I'll tell you what, Democrats starting to panic, you will not get my vote. Not for a long time, if ever again. You let it happen. You're either incapable of leading or you are willfully inept. We need someone else. I'll leave it there. Next segment will be tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all next time.